Hello, I'm Dana Levenberg, member of the New York State Assembly for the 95th District of New York State. That's the same as the New York State Assembly. Welcome to my podcast series, Building Healthy Communities. My mission as a legislator is to build healthy communities in every sense of the word, environmentally healthy, economically healthy, physically and mentally healthy, all through the lens of equity. In this podcast series, I talk with leaders, advocates, and others who are helping to build healthy communities here in AD 95 and beyond. Along the way, I hope that I continue to share information and resources for local residents, which is hopefully news that you can use. Today, I'm joined by two wonderful people from Teatown Lake Reservation, or also just known as Teatown now, located in Ossining, New York. Kevin Carter, the executive director, and Emily Edmonds-Langham, the Director of Education. Teatown has been providing environmental education programs and hiking trails to the community, my kids, and my family since the 1970s. Well, we didn't start back then. And it's become a beloved nature preserve for all who visit. Before becoming the executive director of Teatown, let me tell you a little bit about Kevin. He led science and children's museums for 16 years, developing innovative ways to deliver complex technical subjects. And he did that to deliver them in engaging ways. Now he serves as the executive director of Teatown, using his leadership prowess and innovation skills on a daily basis to further Teatown's mission. Emily worked at the American Museum of Natural History for 13 years and the New York Botanical Garden for many years. All of these favorite places of mine. Now she leads the education departments at Teatown, serving families, adults, and youth audiences. So I'm hoping that Kevin and Emily will share more about Teatown's mission, the programs that they offer, as well as the grant to fund their new ADA renovations and new education building, and how we can all get involved in supporting Teatown. Welcome, Kevin and Emily. Take it away.
Thanks, Dana. Really, we greatly appreciate being invited to come on your podcast. Obviously, we're fans of your mission to build healthy communities, and we're happy to be a part of that here in northern Westchester. So happy to be here and talk about Teatown a bit more.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for hosting us. This is a different setting than we usually find ourselves in, where you might be jumping in with us to pull out invasives. You've definitely had a hands-on relationship with Teatown for many years that we really appreciate.
Absolutely. And tadpoles and all sorts of
All the
other
good
wonderful
stuff.
creatures, turtles. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about Teatown and what your main goals are with this wonderful nature preserve.
Sure. So our mission statement at Teatown is to inspire our community to lifelong environmental stewardship. I like the mission, and many people tell me they like it too, because it's simple and memorable, and it's big, and it's an important goal. I think you look at our world and you can understand that mission is more important now than ever. So how do you go about, doing that, accomplishing that mission to inspire people? And I guess to start at the beginning, the most important thing you have to do is get them connected with the natural world and feel a part of it. So Teatown, way back, and it started in 1963. It was one family's gift of land. They really wanted it to be available for public use and enjoyment. So that was under 200 acres, and now we've grown to over 1,000 acres which makes us the largest community supported preserve in Westchester. And we have 15 miles of trails that are open to the public from dawn to dusk year round. At the center, it's this idea of connecting with nature. But as we've evolved as an organization, we went a lot deeper into, facilitating connections with people through education programs, a whole host of education programs that are designed to inspire people and to feed their curiosity for a lifelong relationship with the natural world, which is good for them, good for their health, as you pointed at the top as one of your mission objectives.
Absolutely.
But it's also good for the environment too, to have people who feel connected, feel happy to be connected, and to make good choices that help steward the environment forward. So that's a big, broad overview. And I think with Emily here, we should let her talk about some of the varied programs that we do, because they really are quite varied across the spectrum of different age groups and types of communities. And some are really science-based, some are arts-based. So I'm going to hand it off to my capable colleague here.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well, Emily, before you get started, I just want to
Sure.
remind you we only have 30 minutes, and I know you have a lot of programs to discuss. It might go
I wouldn't
over for everybody.
dream of going
We
into
won't- we won't
I'm
everything
go
that we
just
do.
over.
joking. I just know that Teatown has so much to offer.
We
That
really
was just
do.
my little joke. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and we really do try to make sure that we have something for everyone. So whether you are in preschool and just starting to learn the difference between someone with feathers or fins or fur, right? We start young. Our mini camps during school holidays and our summer camp starts for children as young as 4. But then you can come back and just go through our entire pipeline of programming. By the time you're in high school, you might be participating in our Teatown Environmental Science Academy, where those young people are doing research projects and working with our science and stewardship department on how to take care of the land and understand the science behind how we do that. So our hope is that if we start children young, whether they drop in for a family program on the weekend where it might be more arts focused and they're painting with plants and making their own pigments and going out and harvesting a piece of Phragmites as a paintbrush and then getting to put it to good use, that builds that connection. Or even if they have their birthday party there, right? That's something that we do too. And we find that people really feel that Teatown is home for them in a lot of ways, and then can continue that relationship as they grow, whether they come back as a camp counselor or maybe as staff. We have full-time staff that started as campers. So there's a lot of ways to get involved, or even as an adult. If you've aged out of our school programs, you can still come back as an adult volunteer nature guide and help us teach. So there's many, many ways of getting involved in the education programs, no matter what age you are.
Okay, I'm going off script here a little bit because I just want to say I'm smiling because I feel like I have been engaged with Teatown for so many years, from my kids going to camp there to regular hikes there on weekends, and just whenever we needed a great place to go, to one of my kids actually being involved in the Tesla program, science
Yeah.
research, leading to science research. And then the adult programs, whether it's like music in the middle of the woods or pancake breakfasts or maple sugaring, the animals. We just love Teatown so much. I feel like, if you don't know about Teatown, you got to go there because there was so much there for our community. Not to mention the hikes with our superintendent and bringing kids there when I was on the Board of Education or when my kids were in school, and bringing school groups there. It's really quite amazing. And I think even sometimes you would go to the schools
We do, yeah.
with little critters and introduce them to critters. It's a fantastic place. And I'm just so excited about your continuing progress and the expansion of not so much your mission, but I guess, what's making it easier for people to avail themselves of all of the beauty of nature within the framework of your property. So it's wonderful. I'm so pleased and proud that you are part of my district, my assembly district, and I just hope anybody watching or listening to this can be as excited as I am to visit Teatown and participate in all that you have. That sounded like a sum up, but I just couldn't help it. I'm sorry. Let me just ask both of you what inspired you to work at a place like Teatown and dedicate your work to stewardship and education.
Well, I didn't grow up necessarily in this assembly district, but I did grow up in Westchester. I grew up in Rye. And so I came up through the Rye Nature Center. And that was how I got hooked as a 4-year-old and never really left the field of environmental education. So I just really appreciate the value of that place-based experiential learning, because I learned best that way myself. And it was so effective for me as a young learner. I am so happy to have been able to spend my career to date in environmental ed. So New York Botanical Garden was a great place to do that as well, teaching kids how to grow vegetables and cook with them and be outside. And of course, the American Museum of Natural History is obviously a world-class institution for science education. It was a wonderful place to spend 13 years, but I kept that garden gig on the side because I really
Right.
couldn't let go of being outside. So I was so happy when the opportunity arose to join Teatown staff and be able to get back to that outdoor education piece as well.
Awesome. Kevin, how about you?
Yeah, for me, it goes back to being a kid. My mom would always take us to museums and science centers and botanical gardens and aquariums. And it was just a part of my growing up. And as I got older, I realized that, wow, there's this whole movement, if you will, about the importance of informal education. There's classroom education, which is, obviously important for developing skills and socializing. But this informal thing was a bug that I got early. Was like, wow, this is really amazing. And some of my most formative experiences were on field trips or family trips. And now even my kids, when we go, if we're traveling anywhere in the country or the world for that matter, it's like it's just understood that we want to go to these great museums. And so I came up in the museum field. Teatown was actually my first nature preserve, but that thread of informal education is very, very strong here. And it's around this idea of, I like the phrase ecological literacy because it's different than just literacy. It's an understanding, thinking about the world that we're a part of, the natural world we're a part of systems. And if people are excited about it and they don't look at it as a, you have to do this, we're gonna crack the whip and make you do this. But if it's something that they're naturally excited about and compelled to do, there's a whole host of benefits that come from that. So yeah, I pivoted to Teatown after working a lot in children's and science museums, and wow, it's been a very exciting journey. Because the place, as you mentioned, Dana, it's loved in the community. There's a lot of goodwill for the place. But it's been evolving to maintain both its relevancy and also understanding that something can make people feel really good, but also be good for the broader world as well. So I always like to say nobody leaves Teatown without feeling better than when they came.
Absolutely.
You
And yeah,
feel
I mean,
better.
wildflower woods. I mean, there's so many things that are there that are just such treasures. And actually, I forgot, Emily, when you were mentioning birthday parties, that
Sure.
I recently ran into. I think she was honored. I can't remember where. Andrea, who taught years ago Mommy and Me classes at Teatown. And she also did a birthday party for my son. And I remember like dropping a stick on one side of the bridge and finding it come out on the other. It's like these little tiny little discoveries that are so simple and so extremely exciting for young people. And that is the way that they connect with nature and feel like, it's important and exciting. And I always love to go to the push button museums, right? The ones
Hmm.
that where you could actually do stuff and you didn't just have to read stuff, right? So like things that you could interact with, and that's kinda like what you're talking about here with, experiential learning, I think, is having the opportunity to engage as you learn, and sometimes you don't even realize you're learning, right? Like
Right. It's way more fun to learn about properties of matter and sinking and floating if you're doing it with sticks and rocks in a
exactly.
pond.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
Well, I was
remember
very
great per
excited.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to say I was very excited to have Emily join our team, several years ago because of her background. There's all these interesting intersections between the botanical garden experience and the natural history experience that she's been bringing here and building a new team here. And then also to be able to get support from our friends and officials like you, Dana, and Senator Harcum and Sandy Galiff, who believe in our organization to help this along in the early stages, really imagine the next iteration of Teatown, the campus renovation, which we're really excited to talk about too.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the new accessible ADA accessible nature trails. Where are they going to be? How can they be accessed? And maybe discuss a little bit about. I can imagine what the specific goal was in creating them, but you talk about it.
Sure. So the key objectives that we ended up kind of giving to our architect and landscape architect were we really want to have classroom space because it's been 33 years since the last renovation of these buildings, and they've served us well, but they're really well worn, need to be we particularly felt compelled to address the gauntlet of being more accessible. It was frankly an area where we knew, upon self-reflection, that we scored rather poorly on that. And so we're an intergenerational place. I mean, we new moms coming with babies and strollers, people coming in wheelchairs or walkers. So because of that intergenerational audience, the importance of having a walkable pedestrian campus was huge from the very beginning. So we told them we want real classrooms, preferably indoor, outdoor classrooms that would open up to the preserve, to be more accessible, to be more sustainable, and from a environmental perspective, to dramatically reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. So these were all things that got integrated into the design that we've been sharing and that we're so excited about. So people who do know Teatown will still see the exteriors here that they know and love, the Tudor exteriors of the Nature Center and the Carriage House. But the Nature Center will be completely reimagined to be accessible, to have really cool, exciting, we hope, stimulating exhibitions that really move people along towards ecological literacy and make them curious and want to forge their own kind of learning paths to understanding more about their place in the natural world. And then this amazing education building, which we didn't imagine in the beginning. We just knew we wanted classrooms, but our architects envisioned it. And as soon as we saw it, we kind of fell in love. I think Emily would be a good person to talk about some of the benefits that new building will provide.
Sure. And I recognize that there's some irony here, and Kevin and I really singing the praises of informal education, wanting to get outside, and then saying, but we're so excited about classrooms.
Exactly.
So there's a tension there, but
Sure.
I think it allows us to have a home base and to have spaces that were actually designed for education in the way that the adaptive reuse of the current nature center just really never allowed for. I can't tell you how excited I am about sinks, because when
Yeah,
you're doing art or you've gotten muddy, you're out there catching frogs. It'll be really
absolutely.
nice to be able to wash your hands and wash your paintbrushes afterwards. So we're very excited just from a practical standpoint to be able to have a building that we can kick off our school field trips in, or to host a lecture in the evening, or gather our volunteers who work with our raptor collection with our live birds. So just the space will be used by many different audiences, and we're really excited to be able to have something that is purpose built for us. But the goal is still to get people outside. So
Sure.
all of those classrooms will open out onto a beautiful deck that is sort of cantilevered over the hillside. So you can look out into the distance and see Teatown Lake down the hill, and you'll be not quite at canopy level, but if you go up the ADA accessible ramp to the roof, we'll have a green roof and a sort of a canopy classroom up there in a lot of ways, where there will be decking, but also green roof plantings as well, which is a great teaching tool to show people what is possible as a homeowner with green design. But that space is also at the treetop level. So I'm thinking about birding. I'm thinking about tree ID in all seasons, right? A lot of really wonderful ways to activate that outside space as well. So it is just, I think, a pivotal moment, big change for us. But I think will really allow us to do what we do, but better, right?
I'm
To
just going to
really
throw this
improve
out
on
because
our
I was in
practice.
Costa Rica not that long ago, and I
Sure.
had a tree net experience. It
Oh,
was quite exciting.
yeah. It's a whole different world up in the canopy.
It
So
really
it's
is.
really
It was
fun.
phenomenal. Yeah, it was so great. It was very special. And we just hung out like in the trees as if we were birds or squirrels or something else. And it was so cool to be up there and just think about what life is like for little critters. So birds and whoever else, bugs.
Yeah.
We love
Hey, they're
bugs.
important.
Yeah.
Bugs
Yeah.
are
So I feel
important
like you
too.
already answered how will students benefit from the new education center. If there's is there anything else that you wanted to add, Kevin, to anything that
Well,
Emily said about that?
yes, the design of this walkable campus, with all of these pathways that are fully ADA accessible, and the fact that will be a loop that comes off of Blinn Road and drops those school groups right in front of the education building. It's really wonderful, both from a safety perspective, but just the educational impact. They're going to get right into their experience at Teatown. And because Emily will attest to that, field trip time when they're on these experiences is really precious, and you want them
Every
to have as
moment
much.
counts.
100%.
Yeah. So And then they'll in things like our nature playscape, I want to draw attention to that.
Sure.
We're putting in a nature playscape, which is think of a playground with all built from natural materials. So yes, you can have slides and climbing structures, but they're made out of wood or hollowed out trees. And what better way to kind of excite both, new parents and young kids to connect with nature than to provide them with that resource and have it be accessible so they can go in the stroller right from the car to the playscape in a safe environment and begin their journey really as environmental stewards. It does start really that early. So we're very excited about that. And our Raptor Loop being accessible, as Emily alluded to, we have all these non-releasable animal ambassadors that are a huge part of the identity of Teatown's programs and what have made them so beloved over all these decades is the animals. They just open people up, people of all ages, to care, and they want to understand. And so it's just a way of bringing in this concept of, yes, I'm part of nature. It's not separate from me. This animal has habitat, but it needs things that I need, like clean air, clean water, food, shelter. So it's trying to develop this sense, and they're wonderful at doing that. So they'll have better homes, and they'll be much more accessible.
Yeah, it's that
I love it.
idea of empathy, right? Just making sure that people feel connected to these living things, even if they're not actively engaged in the care of the birds or of our chipmunk or any of our other animal ambassadors. It's a really wonderful avenue in because I think we see something of ourselves in them, right? We feel connected to these other living things. And once you start to place them within the context of their larger ecology, then you can understand what we're doing as a stewardship organization, right? As a conservation organization to protect their habitats. And so we're excited about our intended exhibitry as well to be able to tell that story in a much more cohesive way than we've ever been able to as well. Because to date, our exhibits have kind of evolved organically, and our animals have been on display in the Nature Center in, I wouldn't call it an ad hoc fashion because we've done a wonderful job and they're all safe and happy, but it'll be really wonderful to put them within context. We're excited about.
You are definitely museum people. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But as you were talking about empathy, I was thinking about the other benefits of communing with nature, as it were, about improving mental health. And we know mental health is such a difficult issue right now for our society in general that I think that that's just another added benefit. I'm just tossing that out there. So
Absolutely.
I don't know if you want to talk at all about why it's so important for outdoor spaces to be accessible to all people, and what are ways that we can make environmental spaces less exclusive, more inclusive. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I'm sure you'll touch on mental health.
Sure. Emily, you want to take that? We could both talk about it, but go ahead.
Sure. Well, I think we have tried in many ways over the years to make sure that Teatown is a place for everyone, whether that is in scholarship funding for children to come to summer camp, or working with various partners to make sure that children get to have that transformative experience. Or we have a program called No Child Left Inside that funds school field trips, whether it covers your program fee or your transportation, so that schools that maybe otherwise would not be able to come for a field trip experience or to afford us to come to their school with live animals or whatever the case may be, that we can make sure that that happens. And we've also been bringing our community partners to our big EagleFest event for the last few years. EagleFest, just as an aside, doesn't happen at our nature center, but is the biggest event that we do every year. It takes place at Croton Point Park, again, in wonderful partnership with the Westchester County Parks and many other organizations that help us pull off a 3,000 person event in the cold in February on the river to celebrate the conservation success story of the return of the bald eagle to the Hudson Valley in heated tents. Don't get scared. We'll see you in February.
No, it's wonderful. Go out on the walks outside too.
Making sure that people get to that event. We also have really been pushing more Spanish language programming. So at EagleFest, for example, last year we partnered with Latino Outdoors New York City chapter to provide bird walks in Spanish. And one of our wonderful community educators at Teatown has been leading Spanish language hikes here at Teatown. So we really are hoping that people feel that this place is for them, and finding ways of making sure that we can communicate that and provide people the support that they need. If taking a hike is something foreign to you, right? If that's not how you have ever spent your time before, making sure that there's support for you.
Yeah, and we actually, on the subject of the mental health benefits of being outdoors, was behind our decision to honor longtime friends of ours that are Westchester County natives, Andy Young and Susan Todd of Archipelago Films. They've made incredible nature films all over the world, including one called Backyard Wilderness, which was shot largely at Teatown. The overlap between their work and ours, and our mission and theirs, is really, really compelling. So we're honoring them at our big event this fall. They're actually working on a new film called Inner Nature, which is specifically about the incredible research being done all over the world to show the mental health benefits, the physical health benefits, the social health benefits of the outdoors. So they've got stuff from all over the world that they're going to share, and it's so well documented. Pulse rates and
Stress
stress
levels, yeah.
levels and neurotransmitter levels, everything
Yeah,
being. It's just, there's something so amazing about that, and you really don't know it until you experience it. So your
yeah.
advice at the top, Dana, about if you haven't been to Teton, go, because you don't really know what's necessarily happening to you and how much better you feel until you experience that.
Absolutely.
But
So I know we only have a couple more minutes. Just really quickly, I know that, Senator Harcum and I have both been able to identify state funds through grants for you. And I wanted you to talk maybe just a little tiny bit about grants, and how important they are for you. And also how educating young kids on environmental stewardship does create long lasting benefits both for students and the environment. I think you touched on that a little at the top. If you want to just wrap it all into the grants and why it's good for everybody, and then we'll close out. Okay?
sure, yeah, grants are a huge part of our lifeblood. I mean, we do programs that are fee based, but we also, as Emily alluded to, have a ton of scholarship programs, and fortunate to have a number of different foundations and donors and individuals who are really passionate about that. So we're trying to remove barriers, and grants are one of the ways we do that. And then the capital opportunities. There's a lot of great opportunities now around the applied science that Teton does. We have a science and stewardship team that's actively involved in habitat restoration projects and meadow restoration and forest restoration. So being able to get those funds, being able to get funds like the kind that you helped us secure, Dana, for the project for accessibility. And your friend Pete Harcum, he was one of the ones early on that said, if you think about accessibility, and you guys are willing to push further out and do more than just one. We were initially thinking maybe the Raptor Loop, but we ended up contemplating and pursuing so much more. And he promised us, he said, if you do it, I'll help get the funding, because I'm all about that. So capital project funding in a historic generational campaign like this for us has been key. We've gotten a significant amount from a number of sources, but even for operations year in and year out. So there's a state program called Zoos, Botanic Gardens, and Aquarium that's really critical to providing the care needed for our animals, for our non-releasable wildlife. And then when they started a capital fund just a couple years ago, we were able to take advantage of that as a longtime recipient of their operational funding. And they're recognizing that all over the state of New York, there are these organizations that are key to places of informal learning where people are developing this environmental ethic and this ecological literacy, and they need our support. I mean, they're drivers of tourism, they're drivers of learning, they're drivers of health, because people are feeling the benefit when they come. So, yeah, grants are huge. And so we thank you and all
And it's
like
my
you that.
pleasure. Yeah, it's absolutely my pleasure to support T-Town. I encourage everybody else to do so too. Go visit, make donations on the website, volunteer at T-Town, come to some of the wonderful events that they have, their upcoming gala or whatever, where they're honoring those wonderful folks who are making films. I think that you kind of said it all, Kevin and Emily. You explained why nature is so important, and having opportunities to do so at T-Town and through T-Town continues to be just a great opportunity here in the 95th district. And please, we welcome all outsiders too. So that's it for this episode of Building Healthy Communities. Thank you both so much for your time and all that you do. And until next time, please be safe and healthy and happy, and go to T-Town.
Thanks, Dana.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you.